Yes, yes, yes. So we got a chance to see me in different kind of audio scenarios and how to get the best audio for your video. Now what we're gonna do is take a look at the footage that we've shot so far. So ideally up until this point, you've basically shot some sort of talking scene. Whether or not that is you walking and talking to the laptop, talking with a selfie video, talking to a DSLR or mirrorless camera, there's some type of dialogue or voiceover or something of some kind that we can basically create a shot list for and block out, or basically create a list of cutaway shots to add on top of that footage. So what we're going to be talking about is reviewing and improving your footage. So as you can see here, I have all my before and after shots. You can see the improvements in the stylizing, in the coloring, in the lighting, in the depth, in the settings, all of these different attributes that we've talked about so far. And now this is where a lot of people can call their videos done, right? But we're gonna take it a step further and introduce what's called B-roll or cutaway shots. Simply put, it's just an extra layer of footage on top of what you've already shot that further explains what's going on in your video. So let's dive into that further. So let's talk about understanding B-roll and its purpose. Now, basically, there's two keys to filming or creating a better looking video. What we're doing is we're shooting what the viewer will experience in their mind. So that's kind of, we're gonna get a little bit on the theory side here, but I wanna keep it very straightforward for you guys. But basically is that the type of footage or the type of video that you watch is always made up of two different types of coverage. That's A-roll coverage, which is the main footage of your video. This is A-roll coverage right now. It's me talking. It's your main layer of footage. I said that twice or three times. It's your main layer of video in your video, right? That's called A-roll. Now, B-roll is basically the cutaway shots or what is added on to that layer of video to further explain. So I've mentioned that before, and basically it's primary and secondary footage. And the reason I say that it's what the viewer will experience in their mind, if I'm talking to you right now, and you're watching this video, this is all you're experiencing. Now, if I took it a step further and added cutaway shots, or you started to see different layers of footage in this video, it would take you on a different journey and a different experience in your mind, which would then create a better looking and feeling more produced video. So that's really the primary thing that we're talking about here. So let's dive a little bit more into A-roll coverage. Now, this is the main footage of your video or scene. For an interview, it's the subject speaking, just like I mentioned. For a story, it's the main character's interaction between, it's the main interactions between characters, okay? So if it's for your TikTok video, your A-roll footage is of you dancing, doing some kind of synced music video vibe, right? But if you added cutaway shots to that, then there would be a little bit more depth. So that's the A-roll, the cutaway shots of the B-roll. Overall, it's the main driving force of the entire video. And lastly, A-roll is generally shot first. So for this course, for example, I'm shooting all my main A-roll footage. And then I have a shot list of basically what needs to be layered on top of that. And then I go, boom, knock out the shot list. And then I have everything that I need to work with in post-production. Now, B-roll coverage is the cutaway shots, the inserts, the close-ups of when someone is speaking or picking up the phone or something important happens. That's what you're adding on top of your footage. It can be an object of importance, like a phone, like I mentioned, that you shoot a close-up after filming the main scene. It's the shots overlaid on top of your interview or your footage, just like this cutaway shot of the screen, right? The text that you're seeing on screen is technically B-roll footage that's overlaid on top of the A-roll footage to further explain and get across to you, the viewer, the video that's happening in your mind to further get across the point of what I'm trying to teach, or make a funny situation, or tell a story, or whatever your type of video is. This is the overall concept. So you're showing the audience the important things to take note of. So it's kind of like an establishing shot of a character that's in a specific location, right? It's a big part of making a higher produced video is really by using these cool cutaway shots. So here's an example of what this coverage looks like.
You have to create style. Style isn't something that you see. Style is something that you bring. That's more than anything physical.
I've been through so much in my lifetime. The biggest thing was me tearing my ACL, you know, and I just try to do like in and out. It kind of just popped the first time. Then I tried to go in the second time, and that's when I knew I tore it. I feel like if you get down and you worry and you know, like, that means you don't have the belief that you say you do.
So this leads us to different shot types. So in the next lecture, I'm gonna dive into what these different type of shot types are, and then we're gonna go over a learning exercise where we're gonna create our own shot list, and then you guys are gonna shadow me and see the actual process of having our A-roll coverage. Ideally, you've already shot that during this course. And then I'm gonna walk you through the process step by step of how I would go about shooting this different kind of B-roll coverage using different shot types and using camera movement and other cool little tricks that you guys will be able to incorporate into all your future videos. So let's get into it. I'll see you in the next lecture. So up first, we have an extreme wide shot or a landscape shot. And what this is doing is it's showing our subject in an environment. So when we're planning out our video or when we're not sure what to shoot, I'm gonna kind of run through the reasons and the purpose of these different types of framing. So for the extreme wide or the landscape shot, we wanna show our subject in their surrounding. So in this situation, if we're shooting a video and we want the audience to know that our subject is in a particular area that's of some type of importance, the wide shot of the landscape shot is a perfect shot to map out and put into your shot list that we're going to work on together. But it's a good thing to keep in mind that shows the environment that you're shooting in. So what you're showing to the audience, you always have to keep in mind that is of importance. So we're not just randomly swinging the camera around or pointing our phone in random places, but we're always having the thought in the back of our mind that we're showing what's important. We're creating what tastes good like a chef for our audience with what we're producing, right? So the next kind of shot is a wide shot. Now this is showing the subject closer up, but still some of the environment. So we're gonna use this when we wanna have a full body shot of our character talking, speaking, doing something of importance, but we can still see the scene that he's in or she is in. The next shot is a cowboy or a medium wide shot. This is generally the knees or the shins up. We don't use this shot too much, but I wanted to put it in here so you guys knew the terminology and you'd be able to recognize when someone mentioned it. But it was kind of like honestly created in those old Western films where they wanted to show a full body of the character, but also the gun holster that rests along the leg. So that genre of like cowboys and Indian style of Western movies created this kind of framing, to be honest. So you probably won't use it too much, but it is still a comfortable framing. And the other thing that I'll mention is with all of these framings, these are like industry filmmaking standard type of framings that are comfortable while still conveying a certain story. So the reason I say that is because if I were to cut off my head here and continue to talk, this would be an uncomfortable framing, right? If I were to come down over here and continue to talk, it would be an odd framing because the eye level would be low, whatever it is. It can be used artistically and you can break these rules in specific scenarios where it makes sense, but all of these framings that I'm going to show you are ones that you can use that comfortably place the subject in the framework, in the, on specific areas of the frame with their eye line at certain levels that you can use to create something that looks good and feels right to the audience. That's the main purpose here. Next up, we have a medium shot. This is waist high. This is if you're talking. This is great for interviews. This is great for two characters communicating with each other. This is great for action videos where there's a lot of movement and you want to see the character and really see their expression, but still show enough of their body and the surrounding. The next up is a medium close-up. This is really chest high when I'm saying, or when the character is saying something important. You know, this is kind of the distance that kind of a selfie video kind of gives you a little bit, is the chest high. It's kind of intimate, you know what I mean? You feel like you're with the person. So the other thing that I'll mention with that is that the camera is acting as your viewer's eye. You know, the camera is really where your audience sees your video from. And so if the camera is far away from your subject or you, there's kind of a distance, there's kind of a non-intimacy. And by intimacy, I just simply mean a closeness or a connection or a I understand you, or I feel that we're on the same page kind of feeling, right? So the closer I get, the more of an intimate feeling is created, right? And so that's something to keep in mind, that when we start bringing the camera closer to you or your subject that's in your video, you're creating more of a connection with the audience, right? When it's far away and you want to see the surrounding, there's not really a connection with the person. They're seeing, the audience is seeing everything, but when we get closer, we're getting more connected. So the next shot is a close-up. This is a lot more intimate, and this is great for saying very poignant, very dramatic statements. If you really want to make your point, you can cut to a close-up shot and really make your point like that, versus a wide shot that's, you know, not really pushing in so much on the viewer, just seeing what the character or person is projecting or displaying with their facial expressions. A close-up is just really showing the face and really like neck high. So all the viewer has to look at is what's going on in the person's face, which if we know this, then we can use that for specific scenarios in our scene when we want to say something that's very important or dramatic. And then we have an extreme close-up, which really is just a little bit more of a push-in on the normal close-up. And you don't really need to use this a whole lot unless it's a very, very, very important part of your scene, or you really want to show someone's emotional response to a certain scenario, or you're filming yourself and you really want to, you know, say something that you feel very strongly about. The close-up is very perfect for this moment, right? And then we have the macro shot. This can be used for the person who's in your video that's talking, or you can actually use it for objects in your video. Because the small object that's becoming very large in the frame is filling the entire frame, the viewer and your audience is going to subconsciously feel that this is a very, very important very, very important part of the video. Like if we show this person's eye opening in the morning, they're gonna feel that it's, oh wow, this person just woke up for the day. Or if we show a close-up on a certain object, the viewer's gonna feel, oh wow, okay, this object is of importance. They're not thinking that consciously, but trust me, they're feeling that subconsciously and picking up on these little things that you can use to further tell your story. We need to talk about the 180-degree rule. Now you have to imagine that anytime you frame up a shot, in this case, the orientation of the subject is on the right of the frame and she's looking to the left of the frame. This creates an imaginary line of the orientation of the camera and the subject. If we move the camera and break that line going onto the other side of the subject, now that flips the orientation of the entire framing. It went from the subject on the right of the frame looking to the left to now the subject on the left of the frame looking to the right. So this is the premise of the 180-degree rule, that anytime you frame a shot, you're creating a line that has to do with the orientation of the camera and the subject. When you move the camera physically, let's say that you're shooting a wide shot and you have a certain orientation set up, and then you move in for a close-up, but you break that line and go on the other side of that imaginary line, you're flipping the orientation of the framing. You're going from looking left to right, and then suddenly the subject is looking right to left. This isn't just for people, this is for objects, let's say a house, a doorway, any kind of a tree, any kind of outdoor environment, any situation. There's always gonna be this 180-degree rule that once you have those shots that you filmed and you bring that into post-production, when you're trying to cut wide shots with mediums and close-ups, suddenly there's a flip of orientation where everyone's looking left and then suddenly everyone's looking right. Keep this in mind when framing up your shots. It's incredibly important not to break this rule. Why is this? Because it distracts the audience, right? If suddenly I'm talking, I'm facing this way, and then suddenly I'm talking and facing this way, and then suddenly I'm talking and facing this way, it throws out the audience and it confuses them and creates a not desired effect for the audience. We always want to keep the audience comfortable and engaged in our films. So the next form of cinematic language that we use to create these pleasing images, because that's really what good films do, is they create this cinematic vibe, this feeling of imagery that's pleasing to look at. So right now we're dissecting and breaking down all these things and the theories behind them so that we can use these with any equipment, any camera, in any situation. So this next thing is called frame balancing, or creating counterpoints. The gist of it is basically that every single object of interest in your frame has a specific weight to it. So right now I'm centered in this image. I have a certain weight where I'm holding down the middle and center and lower part of this frame. It's much more light and open, and there's space out here. So if we take a look at this image where our beautiful model is framed to the left of the screen and there's a counterpoint in the background that creates an evenly weighted frame. So like I said, each point in the frame is physically carrying its own weight to it. Now if we have the same exact framing but without this counterpointed weight in the background, you can see it's an incredibly less of a cinematic image, because we're losing the balance. It's almost like that image subconsciously for the viewer just wants to turn over on its side, right? And what we want is to create balanced framing. It's just like cooking, where you're creating the perfect ingredients for this awesome, amazing dish, right? So if there's too much of one thing, not enough of the other thing, it doesn't have that overall cohesive feeling and look. So now if we take a look at how this flower is framed, you have a left dominant framing, center dominant, and right dominant framing, all with their own weights. So with this in mind, if we can balance out the primary focus of an image with a secondary point of focus or reference in the background, we can easily create much more cinematic framing and imagery. And that does it for these extra learning lessons that I added in after being in the editing process of finishing this course. I wanted to really kind of add in a little extra something from the more theoretical course. So I really hope that gives you some cool insights. In the next learning lesson, we're going to recap our ideas that we've gone over so far and keep moving into more filming principles.